Hi, I'm Mrs. Cranmer, and welcome to this video. In case you didn't go to back to school night last night, then you can have an opportunity to see these slides. Um, the agenda that I had for last night is a memo to me, which was an opportunity for people to write notes to me about things they wanted me to know about their students, a little bit about myself. I asked people to start thinking about next year now. It's not too early to do that. And I talked about what's special about this course and how you can help your student. So the memo is obviously not something you have since you're watching a video right now, but I have it because back to school night is not really a night to talk to people individually. So it's an opportunity for students, or for parents rather, to tell me if their student has maybe a medical issue or maybe a family trip or something related to sports or something else they just want me to know. And if they want to talk to me more about that, they can let me know. Or maybe it's just something they want to tell me. So you could certainly accomplish this by emailing me, same thing. This is the only picture I have that I could show you of me from the last 2 summers where I'm not wearing a mask. I do have it around my neck in the picture, just like I have now. That's when we went to Kentucky in the summer 2020. And you know, horses don't have to wear masks either. So I was a racehorse. I've been teaching for 26 years. This is my 27th year and 12 years at Granite Bay. Not only do I teach this class, but I also teach the IB Junior Language and Literature class, and I'm the IB coordinator. So one of the things that makes this class special is that I use the curricular approach that International Baccalaureate uses. So if your student enjoys this class, they would enjoy other IB classes too. An essential part of that is that we involve the IB learner profile, which is a list of traits that we hope to develop in all students. They're things that you and all of us would hope to develop in ourselves and in our children. And they're things like being knowledgeable or caring or a thinker, an inquirer, being open-minded, balanced, a risk taker, those kinds of things. And we talk about those in the context of the works we're studying and the assignments that we do. I want to talk a little bit about the IB program versus the AP course differences because not everyone understands, and this is a chance to start thinking about that because IB courses and most AP courses start next year for juniors and seniors. There's a really big difference between IB and AP. So IB is a program, AP is not a program. Those are just courses, individual courses, just like you could take CP courses or any kind of class you'd sign up for. So there's a global perspective in the IB classes, which means that when we make choices when we're using examples and things like that, we're choosing things from different places, different time periods, different continents, and we're relating those to here at Granite Bay. I know you've probably heard the idea that we live in a Granite Bay bubble, and we want the students to be aware of things outside of the Granite Bay bubble. Length of time is also very different. If a student takes an SLIB course, that they'll take that class every day for a year. And if they take an HL course, a higher level course, that's every other day for 2 years. So if they were to sign up for IB Language and Literature and History of the Americas their junior and senior year, they'd have that class for 2 years. What's really special about that is the class size. It's definitely much smaller than AP, and they have teacher continuity. So for instance, I have the juniors this year and they'll have me all year long, and they'll still work with me next year because I'll be helping them with some things that they're doing. We also have a team approach to working with them. So we have the school librarian, Mrs. McCoy, works with us. Mrs. Bacharach, the theory of knowledge teacher, works with us. And the teachers regularly meet in the IB program and talk about program issues, but also we share ideas about students and ways we can help them. It's also incredibly different from AP because IB courses involve research and AP courses don't. They just don't have the time. AP is like a sprint, you know, they have to learn all this information really fast in 3 or 4 months. So the students in all IB courses are doing research projects that they choose themselves. So they're learning real world skills they can apply not just to college, but also to a career. And also just to help them to be discerning, discriminating consumers of information. We do a lot of different text types in IB language and literature, unlike AP Lang. So, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And there's an emphasis on speaking as well as on critical thinking. AP obviously does critical thinking, but not so much on speaking. They just don't have the time. Your student can find out more about IB by meeting with the IB ambassadors. I'll be letting them know about that. We also have an IB website, which you can see here at this link, and you can also contact me. We'll also be starting up an IB parent group again soon. We had a very good one, and the pandemic happened. So we're going to get that going again. And I'll be sending out emails about that. So here's an example of curricular differences. So on the left, you'll see the literature for the AP language course, and you'll see there's a decided bias toward American and British writers, um, mostly from the same time period, which is the early part of the 20th century, and then some from the 18th and 19th centuries. Whereas in IB language and literature, we're trying to do things from different continents, from different time periods, and different kinds of texts. So in AP Lang, you see 3 novels and then essayists. But in the IB language course, we're reading a novel, A Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata, that's from Japan. Paris Police, or Persepolis, is a graphic novel by Marjane Satrapi. That's translated, and so is Convenience Store Woman from the original languages. We'll do Tartuffe, which is a play from the 1600s by Molière. And then we're also doing things like digital photo collages. That's from an artist named Ugur Galankus from Turkey. We'll do op-ed writers from the US, Canada, and India. And we'll do political cartoons. There's a political cartoonist. His name is Andrew Marlton. He also goes by First Dog on the Moon. So we're engaging with different ways that we take meaning from our world, that we and how we make decisions about what something means. And we try to look at symbols and semiotics, and as well as the things that you might consider to be normal in the English class: spelling, punctuation, grammar, mechanics, writing strategies, all those sorts of things. So it's a broader in IB. In this English 10 honors class, the contexts are part of the teaching that we do for the class, and we do a research project for every single work that we study. Right now we're doing England in the Cold War because we're about to read Lord of the Flies. We'll learn about Iran and the Islamic Revolution for when we do Paris Police. The US civil rights in the 60s and 70s when we do Brown Girl Dreaming. And we're going to do some of Macbeth, and so for that we'll learn about England and the Renaissance. Another thing that makes it special, as I mentioned before, is the different text types. So Lord of the Flies is a fictional allegory. So that's really useful for them to learn about making comparisons. That helps with understanding things like sarcasm and irony that we're certainly surrounded by in this world. Graphic novel memoir, Paris Police, that they'll be reading, is a unique experience for them because they'll be thinking about how they interpret the message through the visual as well as the verbal. We're reading Brown Girl Dreaming, which is a memoir written all in poems, which is a really great experience for them. And then, of course, Macbeth is a tragedy, and you're probably familiar with that because most of us had to do that in high school. We won't be doing that the same way as we did in high school, though. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then there'll be ancillary texts, too, that we do, non-literary pieces, lyrics, videos, all sorts of things that we bring in. So these are the texts. Just want to spend a minute on Macbeth. So when we were in high school, like if you were like me, they gave us a copy of Macbeth, and then we sat there and struggled through every single word and every single page, and it was painful. And that is not why Shakespeare wrote that play. It's called a play, and there were players because you're supposed to play and have fun and enjoy it. And so when we do Macbeth, we'll be doing selected scenes from Macbeth, and they will get a page at a time from me, and they will actually all play the parts, all of them. They won't take turns and have to listen for an hour while other people read. And they'll be on their feet and trying out the language and interpreting the language because of having to actually act it out. So it should be a lot of fun. Usually students really enjoy it. Another thing that makes this class special is, as I mentioned, the inquiry or the research and presentations. Today they did Lord of the Flies 2-minute table talks in the library. They were all nervous about it, but they did a really great job. They'll be doing that several more times in the term. That's important because we need to be able to speak extemporaneously. We need to be able to have a specific objective for the audience, right? We have a message or a purpose that we're trying to convey, and those are all things that they're practicing through doing that and just becoming more comfortable speaking. Um, and then also through that process, they're learning about the Modern Language Association rules for how we punctuate and do works cited and those sorts of things, which is very useful for them as well, for high school, for college, but also even for a career. My husband's a software engineer, and he has to go out and do research sometimes, and I know that they do white papers and things like that, so it applies in other contexts as well. The theme for this class is storytelling, which if you looked at the class expectations that I sent home to you last week and earlier this week, you already know about. And so they'll be practicing different ways to tell their own story. That's really important because, as you know, the way for us to be successful is to be able to know who we are, to be able to articulate who we are, what we want, where we're going, and to be able to make choices based on that. And our relationships are based on that. So if we're able to make a good impression because we communicate who we are in an interview for college or an interview for a job or an interview for a relationship like a boyfriend or a girlfriend or something like that. Those are all opportunities to share our stories. So they'll be doing that in different ways. Things like maps of their lives, timelines of their lives. We'll do 6-word stories, which is really fun, internal monologues. They're going to write poetry when we read the poetry memoir, Brown Girl Dreaming, and there'll be other opportunities as well. The things that we read also all tie to global issues, and we want to be aware of those things because, again, we do not live in the Granite Bay bubble. We live in the world, and we want to be paying attention to that. So an example of this would be in Lord of the Flies, for instance, when Simon is murdered, that's caused by mob mentality. So we'll be talking about psychological issues. We'll be reading articles, nonfiction articles about peer pressure and conditions that lead to those sorts of things, and they'll be using those pieces to write a little bit of analysis about that. Our assessments are pretty much the same assessments you see in any English class. So we do a literary analysis. We'll do comparative analysis because the district common assessment is compare and contrast, and we should just know how to do that anyway. They'll do poetry, personal narrative, presentations, and research documents. How you can help is to make sure that we are communicating with each other. So my email is on the screen, but some people misspell it. It's Cran like cranberry and Mer like mermaid. My last name Cranmer, so bcranmer at rjuhsd.us. We also have a class website. You can always check it out and see what's on there. That is case sensitive, so you want to put the little h for the H and a big G for the Grizzlies at that bit.ly. And of course, you can ask your son or daughter to show their Google Classroom because our assignments are posted there. If you have questions, you can email me. You can also leave voicemail messages. I'm pretty fast at getting back to people. I'm sorry you couldn't come to back to school night, but I hope that you'll reach out if you have any questions. It's my absolute faith that every student in this class will move forward and feel good about what they've accomplished here. No matter where they are, that's certainly the case. One other thing I should mention is that I did point out in the course expectations for this class is that students can revise work and they can get full credit when they do those revisions, not unlimited revisions, and certainly not for 1 or 2 points just to get like 100%, but because they want to master those skills, learn those skills, I want them to do that too. And so that's available for everything except for the midterm and the final, things that are final projects with absolute deadlines. All right, I hope that helps. Thanks very much. Good night.